All
Governor
right.
Cuomo, hi, you're on Questionable Material with Jack and Brian.
Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here.
The pleasure's ours. My goodness, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
this is actually very impressive for us. You're probably one of our highest profile guests, to be honest.
I've actually had some people look into your program, and I think I would clearly be the highest profile guest.
Fair enough. That's a very that's. I wouldn't say that's like a subtle dig. It's more of a dig.
But
But I
he's
get
not
We
it.
don't
wrong.
we don't do subtle digs in the Cuomo household. We sort of take a shovel and beat you over the head with it, and then dig your grave and bury you in it. And then have like a nice drink afterwards.
So from talking with your
Classy.
assistant, I guess Jack says that we can pretty much ask you any questions we'd like because we do have a ton of questions. You've been in the news a lot, obviously.
Yes, I am contrary to what some media outlets would portray me as, I am an open $5 million book.
Wow. Okay.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's actually
Yeah.
one of the first things we wanted to ask you about. So, what made you to decide to write your book that, some people would sort of describe as a victory lap when the pandemic is clearly far from over?
You remember Babe Ruth, right? The famous New York Yankee.
I do.
Sure.
Now, I am, of course, partial to Joe DiMaggio, but Babe Ruth, part of the legend of Babe Ruth was not just that he hit very towering home runs, but he once called his shot. He pointed to the stands and said he was going to hit a home run, and that's what he did. And without that, I think he would just be another sort of obese baseball player. But it was that level of confidence that made him sort of legendary. So I just, mid COVID, I thought I'm calling my shot and I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a great book on leadership. And that's
Mhm.
what we did.
Well, it's so interesting. So, what is so you wrote a book that's probably not something you're used to doing. What is your writing process like?
Well, I have a few, I obviously have great ideas
Mhm.
and a sort of narrative that I want to get out there and lessons for people. Much better than my father, Mario, who I respect, but I think I have exceeded in so many ways. Not that there's any family rivalry or deep seated issues there. But what I basically do is I jot down many ideas that I have, and then I bring in 5 assistants. Four are attractive women, and one is sort of homely to showcase diversity. And I yell at them and say, I don't know if you remember Glengarry Glen Ross, but where
Sure.
first prize gets a Cadillac, second prize is a set of steak knives. So I tell them first one to get me this chapter back gets a raise, and then the bottom four get fired.
Wow.
Wow.
And what if the first one to get the chapter back was the homely one?
It's never the homely one.
Understood. Understood.
A
Yeah, I
little
respect the hell out of
a
him.
little trick of the trade.
So I guess that explains how you managed to write a book while at the same time kind of managing one of the more populous states in the country, right?
Exactly. I was doing my great press conferences and also supervising some of the research and writing of the book.
Uh-huh.
Well, you got paid $5 million for this book. I mean, and it only sold 46,000 copies, by the way.
Well, it's a good thing we're charging $380 a copy.
Oh, wow, that's
Oh,
great. That's a
that's
good
just
that's a good price for a hardcover.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, so what do you plan? So obviously, okay, then yes, you must you're making everybody money, but including yourself. So what are you going to do with the money that you've earned? What do you plan to spoil yourself with? What are you doing with your money?
Oh well, there is a quote, we call it the Cuomo Quiet Fund, which is money that I am putting away to pay off, certain potential settlements that may come through the court system in the near future. So we call that the Cuomo Quiet Fund, meaning if you get this money from Cuomo, be quiet.
I see.
So it's we you have to be prudent. You have to save money for a rainy day, and there are radical feminist storm clouds brewing.
And you think it's just radical feminists?
No, I think there's people obviously on the right who have it in for me as well, because my leadership, in contrast to deranged Donald, was so powerful that they want to take me down. So this is what happens when you're outside the political class, when you're a renegade outsider who's only worked in politics for 4 decades.
Mhm.
They are threatened by your outsider status.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is.
But so, you did recently face criticism when you warned people to get vaccinated, because you've been talking a lot about getting vaccinated lately, trying to get the whole state vaccinated. You said that if they didn't get vaccinated, then quote, maybe you go home and kiss your grandmother and wind up killing your grandmother. Now, what did you mean by that?
Well, to be honest, that was sort of, you know, pillow talk, if I can be honest. Like when I have a sort of dark side to me when it comes to the bedroom. And, when I think of, because as a youth in Queens, I remember my high school girlfriend lived with obviously her parents, but also her grandmother. And when we would try to sneak into her room, her grandmother was always sort of keeping a watchful eye and sort of, I think the kids might call it today, cock blocking. And so I've always sort of had a little bit, if I can be honest with you guys, a little bit of a fetish for deceased grandparents.
Huh.
Oh, that
So, which
explains a
might
lot.
explain some other things that some people have been saying were controversial. Oh, let's move all the patients into the nursing homes. How about that? And all of a sudden, guess who doesn't need the blue pill anymore?
Wow. Wow. That's so subconsciously you just might have you might prefer your older people to be deceased.
Oh, no. Well, in a perfect world, they could live. And obviously, I would still have great success with ladies. But, sometimes I call it nature's Viagra. When you just see those older people expiring and you just sort of perk up, if you know what I mean. We'll keep it politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm.
No, that's good. Yeah, after saying cock block, I'm glad you're keeping it PC.
Yeah.
We
Now,
call it, the official term is nequomophiliac.
The homophiliacs. Wow.
wow, let's call the folks at Webster's. Woo. Okay. Well, I've wondered, you've been so omnipresent in our lives, especially, Brian and I are New Yorkers.
Mhm.
And so, during the height of the pandemic, during the scariest times, you were on the radio and on television every single day with the updates. And so we sort of got to know you a little bit. And I would always look at you and I would wonder, what would you have gotten into had you not gone into politics? Had you not decided to take a governor track? What would you be doing today, do you think?
I would say possibly mayor, maybe president,
Mm-hmm.
possibly senator, but something in politics. But if not politics, probably running a small to medium sized sanitation business, possibly construction,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
or running a series of cash only restaurants.
Mm-hmm. I
Sure.
had that. Yeah, I thought that too. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, the Peter Luger business model.
Yes.
Exactly. But
Hmm.
we would call it Andrew Cuomo's.
No, that's good. Brian, I know you wanted to. I know you get worked up about Chris Cuomo a lot. So
Well,
why don't we
I
talk
mean,
about that?
I wouldn't say worked up. I don't want to offend Governor Cuomo. I'd say like Chris tends to rub me the wrong way every once in a while, and I'm curious what do you and your brother Chris talk about when you're just hanging out together, Governor?
Mostly, obviously we're family, so there's a lot of love there. But
Nice.
mostly I sit there and I critique him, his diction, his clothing choice, his poor words on air, his poor sense of humor. Because there was such a large gap between us that I was more of a surrogate father to him.
Hmm.
So I think he's very confused, but it gives me great power, to be honest, because if this was just a uh, bench press competition, I would lose. I can admit that. But when you have the psychological advantage over your brother, I always have the power over him. So I always try to maintain a sort of abusive power over him because once if he ever realizes that he could take me in a fight, I might not be looking at a fifth or sixth term as governor.
That's
Hmm.
fascinating because you say you kind of psychologically abuse him, and yet there he is offering you advice on how to deal with the sexual harassment allegations. So that's love, right, or fear?
Oh no, I think there's definitely love there as well as fear. We call it FOV in the Cuomo family,
Love.
and it's all about FOV. That's our family motto. But I think what you do is obviously he's in a little bit of hot water
Hmm.
because now he's saying to me, uh, I should fight the allegations. Well,
Hmm.
of course, I'm going to fight the allegations, but now the media is attacking him for basically saying what I would say are common sense family ideas. But now that he's under attack from the media, he's in a weakened state again, which is where I swoop in and pretend to pick him up and say, it's okay. Thank you for defending me. Even though his defense was fairly common sense, but now he's under heat and I have the upper hand again.
And what do you think CNN should do? Because obviously, this is kind of a conflict of interest. This is not really the most professional behavior on his behalf as a journalist, as a face on CNN, to be giving his brother advice when he's going to be reporting on you, conceivably.
No, I think that CNN should probably fire him, which would, of course, give me the upper hand again. And but I don't think they're going to do that because they don't have the same power over Christopher that I do. So if they were to fire Christopher, he might throw somebody through a window if I'm not there to protect them. So I think they're playing it safe with Chris because he's so fit and into like MMA.
Mm.
So I think they're doing the best they can with him. But I think that what he's, I will just say this. I would love to see someone. I was very disappointed when they got rid of Brooke Baldwin, who I think
Hmm.
should have taken over for Christopher. And I told her that. I told her I think she should have taken over. And
Mm.
if she liked that, would she also like to uh, come to the governor's mansion for a one on one strategy session? And she declined. And then I said, okay, well, I hope they fire you. And they did.
So you feel good about that. That's a good feeling.
When somebody refuses you and then you see their life turn to shambles, it's almost as erotic as old people dying. Almost.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe I'll be the one
To
who
each their
differs
own,
on this
Jack.
one.
To
Okay,
each
I
their
guess
own.
I'm not going to yuck his yum. I guess.
That's
Now,
right.
let's look to the future, Governor Cuomo. What are your plans beyond this year?
I'm going to run for a fourth term,
Okay. Hmm.
and then I'm going to run for a fifth term.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I don't know if you can see a pattern here, but I will run for a sixth term, which
Okay.
will be double what my father Mario Cuomo did.
Oh,
Is there an
there's that
element
name
of
again.
competition there? There's a element of wanting to outdo Dad.
No, but every year on the date of his death, I go to his gravestone and say, I'm going to get more terms than you miserable son of a bitch. So it's just sort of healthy family fav. There's more fav
Fun.
there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of
That's
fun. And yet, so you might have a little strained relationship with your late father, because it seems strange you would have a bridge named after him.
yeah.
Well, what better way? I feel like I can be honest with you two.
Sure.
But what better way to hide your true intentions than to name a bridge after your father? Then nobody can question your motives.
Wow.
Wow.
He's a thinker. Like he
That is a
is.
really good point.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing 5D chess.
Yeah, he's playing the long game, Brian.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like
Wow.
he's like
Six-term chess.
6-term chess.
6-term chess. Fine.
So by that, I mean, at this point, we're what? You're 80 years old in your 6th term. Is that?
I believe maybe late, close to 80, close.
So governor for
Basically,
life is
I
the.
am going to make a bunch of. Remember Robert Palmer? Do you remember he had the "Addicted to Love"
Might as well
Yes.
video?
face it. You're addicted to love. Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm addicted to Gov, and I am going to hire very attractive interns well
Mhm.
into my 80s, and then when I expire at the governor's desk sometime in my 8th term,
Mhm.
I will have them all dressed in black dresses carrying me out like it's a Robert Palmer video.
God,
Well, I
you
mean,
have really thought things out.
it's amazing. I don't even know what I'm going to have for lunch, and he's already figured out he's way into his 8th term.
Well, Brian, this is leadership. He wrote
Yeah,
a
I
book
get.
on it, dude.
I haven't read it yet. I'm sorry. I've yet to pick up a copy, but
Well,
it's on my list of books.
I don't have
We,
enough money to buy it.
we are accepting Bitcoin if you want to purchase it with Bitcoin.
Okay.
Well, that's
I-
become more affordable lately, fortunately.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll take that under advisement. Real quickly, let's get you out on this. We like to sometimes end on just like a fluffy sort of note, just sort of an upbeat thing. And I was wondering.
Did some old woman pass away just now?
No, gosh, no.
Different strokes for
Sorry.
different folks.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I don't. Well, I mean, statistically, yes. The answer is yes. That's not what I was
True.
referring to. But somewhere, an old lady just died.
That's my version of it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Somewhere an old lady died.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? No further questions. Thank you so much for being here, Governor Cuomo, for taking the time out of your very meticulously planned schedule.
Yeah, and it's amazing because we're actually half an hour into what should be his press conference on COVID, and yet here he is talking to us. That's flattering.
That is
No, I
flattering.
actually, if you read my book, I said on page 91 that I would be doing a podcast and a very honest conversation in late May 2021.
Wow, he really plans ahead. This is amazing, Jack.
He's amazing. I'm so glad I thought about voting for him.
Yeah, it changes the way I think about him too.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why they call me Cuomo Damas.
Cuomo Damas, everybody. Thanks so much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. And if I don't talk to you later, I will see you tomorrow.
Oh.